To anyone who lives on the north side of the city of Dublin, Malahide is known as one of the quieter watering places along our coast. It's always preserved that dignified air. It's for boating and golf rather than for day trippers from the city. Its air of quiet gentility continues to exist even in the 1960s. Of course, it has historical associations too. Malahide Castle, for instance, where the Boswell papers were found, a fine old building which is still inhabited by the family of the Talbot de Malahides. And it has literary associations as well. Brian Inglis, in his book West Briton, paints a rather fearsome picture of Malahide as it was in the early years of this century and in the 1920s. Then the town was like some outpost of the empire, very British, so much so that Catholics were not allowed to join the nearby Island Golf Club. But then, neither were tradesmen. According to Inglis, those who dug with the wrong foot and had strange Irish accents were beyond the pale, although, of course, there was a fine paternalistic attitude towards them. The In-Denomination, of course, was Church of Ireland, and it's not very easy to put a finger on just where Presbyterians stood in this strange social hierarchy. In the early years of this century, I should imagine not very near the top, because the first Presbyterian community here seems to have been largely made up of the Scottish herring women who spent perhaps 3 or 4 months a year here and at Howth gutting and salting the fish for export. There were others, of course, servants and stewards at Malahide Castle, and a number of business people. In 1900, there was the nucleus of a Presbyterian community here at Malahide, and it was in this house, casino, that they first worshipped. A few years later, Mr James Dickie bought this house in Killeeen Terrace, and they worshipped here each week in its drawing rooms. By 1956, the number of Presbyterian families had increased, and a more thriving community, eager perhaps for a more seemly place in which to worship, decided that they must have a church. And this is it. The Malahide Presbyterian Church, an attractive little building for the 54 Presbyterian families who now live here. It was dedicated just 10 years ago today, on November 25, 1956, to parish priests with £40,000 debts on their churches, perhaps something to envy, because although it cost £9,400 to build, it was all paid for on the day that it opened. £2,800 came from the Church Extension Fund of the Presbyterian Church in Ireland, the rest from the community and well-wishers, including many Catholics. For although Malahide still has a population maybe 40% non-Roman Catholic, the old days of which Brian Inglis wrote are pretty dead. The church and children's creche behind it were designed by a member of the congregation, Mr William Baird. The stained glass window commemorates Mr Dickie, who could perhaps be called the founder of that congregation. In these days, when the Church of Ireland is disposing of so many of its churches, it's unusual to see a new church being built which is not a Catholic church. Malahide's is the first Presbyterian church built in the Republic this century. And to mark 10 years of worship here, the Malahide congregation tonight holds an anniversary celebration. On Sunday, they hold special Thanksgiving services. And because 1966 is the year of the Presbyterian Church's Extension Fund appeal, they will contribute towards the building of churches in other parts of Ireland.